Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Braintree Town Council meeting for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you please remain standing for one moment for our men and women in uniform? Thank you very much. Please be seated. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilor Barrica?
Here.
Councilor Flaherty?
Here.
Councilor Hume?
Here.
Councilor Maglio?
Here.
Councilor Moran?
Here.
Councilor Quilty?
Here.
Councilor Reynolds?
Here.
Councilor Ringus?
Here.
Councilor Ryan?
Here. Thank you.
present.
So we have everyone here tonight. We do not have any remote participation. Next, I'd ask if we have any announcements by any of the council members. Councilor Hume.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually have two. The Braintree Recreation Department and Mayor Aaron Joyce are holding their bingo night here at Braintree Town Hall tomorrow, Wednesday, March 20th at 6 p.m. It is free admission if you want to buy snacks and things like that, but it's open to all ages. It's been a great event. The crowd keeps growing. This Saturday, also, the Braintree Music Department is hosting a mattress fundraiser. That's Saturday, March 23rd from 10 to 4 at Braintree High School. They will have a showroom set up in the main entrance of Braintree High School. This will benefit the music department. This is the same fundraiser that the Braintree High School Athletic Association did a few years ago that I was involved in. Huge success, the best pillow I've ever bought. They have brand name mattresses, all brand new. There's delivery, there's financing, but they are at huge discounts. So if you're in the market for a new mattress, new pillow, stop on by the high school, and all proceeds benefit Braintree Music Department. Thank you. This Saturday. Yep.
Thank you. For any other announcements, Councilor Maglio?
Yes, I have an announcement. Thank you. I just wanted to update folks on the public meeting tonight that took place regarding the Hazard Mitigation Committee. And just to give people a very brief 30 seconds on it. The Hazard Mitigation Committee is about, mitigation is sustained action to minimize natural hazard risks to people, property, and the environment. And every dollar that's spent on mitigation saves $6 in recovery. So this particular effort, of which I've been on the committee now we've started a few months ago, and we've gathered and we're working with the consultant, we've gathered the data, we've looked at the previous plan from 2019, and essentially what it is assessing the natural hazards and the community assets, and looking at ways to prevent a hazard from impacting a community asset. There are 22 potential mitigation actions. That means that there are plans, regulations, education, protection, etc. And the point of this all is that we're following the FEMA planning process so that we can apply for funding for the plans that are in this report, so that the kinds of things that we see happening around town, the kinds of things that could bring potential damage, there's money through FEMA to mitigate that and to prevent that for us as a town, as well as for individual neighbors and neighborhoods based on what the hazards are. So there's still more in the process. There's still a few more steps to go. The plan will be available to the public for comment, and once it's done, we then use that as a basis for fundraising for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you for that update, Councilor Maglio. Any other announcements? Okay. Our next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for February 27th, 2024, and for March 6th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item that we have on the agenda is to hear from Mayor Erin Joyce is here, and she wanted to give us a fiscal year 2025 update. Mayor Joyce, welcome.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you, Council President Ryan, for allowing me to speak with you all tonight ahead of the upcoming budget season, which is certainly underway on our end, but will be more public-facing as we submit the budget to you in April and work through commentary and questions with department heads in May, and ultimately, be at a point where we will be approving the budget. So I'm before you tonight to speak a bit candidly about the challenges my administration is tackling as we embark on what will be our first budget season. But I know for a lot of counselors who have been serving Braintree for many years, you already have a few under your belt already. So I look forward to working with you all in the weeks ahead. As many of you may be aware, and as I hope to shed some light on this evening, the town of Braintree is facing a challenging year ahead, and we do expect the next several weeks and the detailed budget sessions in May to paint the picture of where the town's resources currently stand and how we plan to stabilize them, reduce the reliance on one-time funds in operational budgets, and strategically plan for operational and capital expenditures into the years ahead. We plan to outline fiscal year 25 budgets alongside projections into fiscal year 26, 27, and 28 as a minimum. To steal a line from the May 19th, 2021 Town Auditor memo to the Council, which was actually almost repeated verbatim in May of 2022, and paralleled in commentary in May of 2023, I quote, "Without getting into all the historical data and providing paralysis by analysis, simply put, the town has been accustomed to budgeting increases in general fund appropriations of, say, X, yet revenues are only growing at Y. Our ability to consistently fill the gap on an annual basis is becoming more challenged as reserves shrink," which I will share the picture of reserves in just a moment, "and our ability to tax is maxed out. We already increase our tax levy by the maximum 2.5% a year, and local receipt assumptions are close to, if not right at, actuals." For reference, our certified free cash was most recently noted at $11.9 million. A good rule of thumb is targeted for 10% of appropriations, so we would like to see that number up around $16 million. And our stabilization funds, which are another source of rainy day sort of funds, are at around $8,000. Again, those should be targeted for around 5% of appropriations, so should be upwards of $8 million as well. Without getting too into the weeds on the numbers for last year, the fiscal year 24 budget, I want to try to speak broadly and simply about the embedded problem that we face as we head into fiscal year 25. To start, we saw the approved use of $4.3 million in free cash to balance our known ongoing operational deficit in fiscal year 24. To further add to the challenge next year, and we will soon be before the Council to present supplemental appropriation requests for the fiscal year 24 budget to account for some known embedded operational costs that arguably should have been accounted for in the base fiscal year 24 budget. While we hope to find a level of budgetary rescissions that can cover the supplemental requests, we do expect supplemental requests from various departments to further draw on our free cash reserves. While free cash was recently certified at $11.9 million, we expect almost $3.5 million in supplemental requests to draw down our reserves to $8.4 million before beginning our budgeting effort for fiscal year 25. This identified gap of $4.3 million, the first amount of free cash used in the budget, plus $3.5 million of supplementals, puts us at approximately $8 million of deficit going into fiscal year 25, without accounting for any expense growth and collective bargaining agreement requirements. In our budget memo to the town department heads sent on March 5th from my office, we noted that given the current growth of spending at around 5% and the town's projected revenue growth of around 2.1%, if we do not spend one incremental dollar more in fiscal year 25 or fiscal year 26, it will take us 2.2 years to bring the town into a break-even status. Realizing this early on, my administration introduced active management tools on the onset of our administration, including hiring freezes across all town departments effective January 29th. Additionally, all non-personnel expenses beyond $1,000 per instance are subject to enhanced justification requirements and review by my chief of staff. Currently, all town departments are working to meet specific spending targets that move us away from plugging operational deficits with one-time, non-recurring funds to close gaps in operational expenses. This has department heads currently working with our finance director to realize the service impacts of closing what is essentially an $8 million operational gap. We expect this to be a very challenging exercise. We expect personnel impacts. We expect potential service reductions. Because this process is just getting underway, we are not yet able to share specific details beyond that. As you may also be following on the school side of this equation, we have asked the superintendent to provide a picture of what level funding looks like. At the most recent school committee meeting, which was last night, the superintendent presented his recommended budget, which is approximately $8 million more than level funded. The $8 million more requested from the schools is on top of the $8 million operational gap on the town side. We are effectively looking at what Braintree looks like spending roughly $16 million less than what we may need. During last budget season, a counselor asked, how do we get to what do we need and away from what can we live without? I'd say when you are in a hole, you need to first stop digging. We will stop digging. We will outline and vet real cuts and weigh them against the anticipated service adjustments realized, and we will chart them out against a multi-year plan. And that is the work we are urgently doing between today and the presentation of our fiscal year 25 budget to the council on April 30th. I would be remiss tonight to not speak to rumors circulating about an operational override tonight. Do we need one? How much? When would it happen? When would the funds be available? And as you know, any movement towards a special election for something like an operational override would need to be voted for by the council. As of this evening, my office is not in a position to comment more than this. We are not bringing forward additional information on an override or the potential for one tonight. We view the override as a last resort. But with that being said, we have not been able to adequately paint the picture of the full impact of service cuts across all departments to close the $8 million gap. We know that without movement to close the gap and realize a multi-year strategy for maintaining fiscal stability, even an override this year could result in a temporary fix, similar to what we have been doing year over year. We do not want to be back next year with the same outlook. I hope in providing this update tonight that we can all realize the challenges that lie ahead, but also realize where we are starting from, a hole, and we need to start digging out. Stop digging, start planning, and set ourselves on a sustainable path forward. I look forward to working with you all in the weeks ahead, and I'm certainly happy to set up any follow-up conversations with counselors individually, so please reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Joyce, for that update, for letting us know where we stand. I think we all knew where we stand, but, give us that update. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Council Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Joyce, thank you so much for a very sober, realistic point of view where our town's finances are and have been for quite a while. It's sobering for certain to hear the level of deficit or need that we have and how it does not match up with an ability to meet that need between now and a budget being approved in June. I guess one thing I'm thankful for is the truthfulness of the situation, because we have to put a stake in the ground somewhere, and you've done that for us this evening. Coming from your office, thank you. It's very sobering, but I think that you're going to get a commitment, a high-level commitment from this council to assist. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor.
Council Maglio.
I'd like to kind of endorse and amplify what Councilor Reynolds just said, and I guess I would just very briefly say we need to rely on you to tell us where we can help solve this situation and where you're steering the ship and how we can be helpful in that process with gathering information, with strategizing, etc. So, and I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Council Moran.
I want to thank the mayor for her candid and frank remarks. I think that they should resonate with not only with our residents, but with this council as a whole, and that we need to work with her as a partner in identifying ways that we can assist and that we can endorse in reducing some of this deficit and climbing out, as she stated. There are no easy solutions to this, and I think she has made clear this isn't solely a revenue issue, this is a spending issue as well, and that we have to exhaust all the remedies that are available to us in addressing the spending issue before we address or go to residents and ask them to increase revenues. So I applaud the mayor in being willing to do the hard things to get the town back to where we need to be and back to where we should be as a well-run municipality. Thank you.
Council
Thank you,
Baraka.
Counselor.
Thank you, President Ryan, and thank you, Mayor Joyce. I'll echo the sentiments of my colleagues and really appreciate you taking the time tonight to provide us with this picture. Just a point of process for residents as well, and so beginning in May, the council will be beginning its budget hearings, working closely with the mayor and our new Director of Finance, Director Esmond. So please, I urge residents, you've just heard from the mayor, and thank you again for that. Please tune in so you can understand what we're facing, what we're up against, and the decisions that are being made. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Council Ringus.
Thank you, Mayor Joyce. Obviously, when you have to stand in a sort of a new position and deliver news like that, it's in a way it's refreshing. The candidness that you brought to us tonight. So I do appreciate that. Obviously, there's a lot of work for your office to do, a lot of work for this council to do. I will piggyback slightly on what Councilor Baraka just mentioned in terms of encouraging the residents to be engaged in the budgetary process by paying attention to what's going on. But I think it's incumbent upon this council and incumbent upon your office as well to ensure that we are reaching out and engaging the residents, not expecting the residents to engage, but we need to make sure the residents are informed. So if we do need to go down a certain path that you might have outlined tonight, depending where we go, we need to make sure that the residents know why we're going there and what the reasoning for that is. So I would encourage us as a council and you and your office to ensure that we find the best ways to reach out to as many residents as possible and engage them as we face these issues together as a community.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Excuse me, Council Flaherty.
Thank you. I'll just, reiterate that I do really, really appreciate the frank honesty that you have applied to this process before the council today. It's incredibly important for us to understand the full scope of what the budget is contending with in this coming fiscal year, and it's also deeply important for residents to understand it too. So having said that, because the part of the budget that's most widely understood at this point in the public is related to the schools, because that has been reviewed in public meetings. I attended the school committee meeting last night where Superintendent Lee made a presentation related to the kinds of cuts that would be necessary in order to meet a level funded budget. And it was very, very concerning. Sobering is too mild a word. It was, to my ears, like a 5-alarm fire listening to that. So with that in mind, it doesn't seem to me like this is, although I would agree that we can make some surgical changes to how we spend our money, I think the bulk of the problem is related to revenue. And I'm interested in hearing, short of an override, since all the options are on the table as far as beginning to solve this problem, because clearly it's a major problem. What are the tools that you view as being at our disposal to attack this problem in the coming months so that we can stanch the flow of blood that seems to be coming our way?
I think on the side of tools that we can use, there isn't one specific tool per se that is going to close this gap. And then also, while we do have some free cash, I think coming up with policies and strategy into what amount, we would want to use on an operational gap again. I think we have to balance all sort of pieces at play, existing free cash, whether or not we can cut expenses. I think as I mentioned, we've given budgetary direction to department heads. We have not done a straight, all department heads submit, X level of cuts. We've sort of sent direction differently to the department heads, sort of based on past planning. We don't yet know what that is going to come back on. The schools are a bit ahead on looking at what the number we asked them to look at actually looks like from service levels. So over the next week or two, we'll be able to have a better sense for how this lines up. How does the impact of budget cuts impact services, and to what magnitude that is acceptable, and what are the options for revenue. There is talk about the governor's Municipal Empowerment Act. I think many of us have probably heard about that, with local options to increase meals tax, excise tax, hotel tax. We don't know if those will come to fruition, and again, they're not really going to bring in the sort of revenue that is at the magnitude of which we need. Even any sort of new projects, economic development, new growth projects in the town, they're several years out on realizing benefits. So in the immediate fiscal year 25, possibly even fiscal year 26, depending on what we can realize on that front, those numbers are also not to the magnitude of closing this $8 million. Now, can we sort of adjust department budgets and get closer to a viable number without, say, an override of sorts? We don't have that information yet to be able to present it. And I think to Councilor Ringus's point, if and when we were to talk about something like that, we would want to make sure we have exhausted and we have all those answers that no, we do not have anticipated revenue options outside of this to address our concerns. Yes, we have turned over every stone in town hall and all the departments in sort of cutting the expenses. I think, this is real. And at the end of the day, if the solution was potentially an override, you have to still plan for if you don't have an override. So regardless, we have to do the exercise of bringing ourselves more in line with sustainable. And I think that's going to be a very, very challenging and very, it's going to be tough because, we're already sort of talking about these big picture decisions, and they're the things you always try not to cut. So, it's not an easy question to answer right now, but I hope in the next couple weeks, as we sort of learn more similarly to what the schools have been able to put together, the departments will be able to share that with us too, and we'll have a better understanding for where we really are at from the services the town's able to provide with the monies we have available.
Thank you.
Council Quilty.
Hi. Mayor Joyce, I'd just like to say thank you for coming here and speaking to us about the situation. You spoke in a very candid way about the challenges of the upcoming budget season. You put it very succinctly when you said, when you are in a hole, you need to stop digging. And I think our job is to educate our constituents about what's really going on with the budget and, fiscally in this town. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Mayor Joyce, I think you can tell by the reaction from the councils, we want to be active participants and help you and your staff in any way we can. I look at this council, and I think it's a very strong council when it comes to, our experience and our fiscal knowledge and past budgets that we've worked on. So I think we pledge to work with you and try to do the best we can to work together to come up with the best budget we can for the town and the residents. So I look forward to working with you, and I wish you the best of luck. And I'm glad to meet your the new staff members, and they're coming into a pretty challenging situation, and hopefully we can all work together to do the best we can. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Council Reynolds.
Just wanted to add one other thing. There's been a couple of comments by the mayor, also by some of the previous speakers, that I think it's important to note for the folks who are listening at home that there is a big number, 11.5, I think is what you said, Mayor, in the free cash. But we can't draw down that free cash to almost use most of it or all of it, because that in itself substitutes other dangers and introduces other risks to make our job as a town harder to get out of this financial hole. It will impact our interest rates that we're charged by our bond rating agencies. It jeopardizes the levels that we have. We've seen that kind of back and forth a little bit over the last few years. So I'd like the public to make an effort to really listen and understand that free cash isn't something that we can just draw on without any other type of a consideration that will introduce other dangers for us financially. Thank you.
Yes, as Director Spellman told me in some of his last days, free cash isn't cash and it isn't free.
I would agree. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ed didn't say a lot, but he had some good ones. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Joyce.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Okay, that is communications, and our next item on the agenda is old business. We have the next three orders are going to still go through the committee process. We're going to open and continue them till April 2nd. At 7:30, we're going to take them all up together, unless anyone objects. So it's 22012, Mayor Zoning Bylaw Text Amendment, Inclusionary Housing, Associated Revisions, or take up any action related thereto. We're going to open that public hearing and continue to April 2nd at 7:30. 23080, Mayor CPC Appropriation, Request for Appropriation, Fire Station, Historic Restoration, or take up any action related thereto. We're going to continue that to April 2nd. And 23086, Mayor
transfer funds from salary reserve or take up any action related thereto. Public hearing, continue that to April 2nd. Is there a motion to open the public hearings for orders 22012, 23080, and 23086?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. And now we need a motion to continue it to April 2nd.
Mr. President, we have a motion to continue the public hearing for 22012, 23080, and 23086 to April 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 PM.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. And moving right along, the next item on the agenda will be new business. Is there a motion to move all measures under new business to the respective committees?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. So, believe it or not, we're done with all our business before us tonight. That was a quick meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, April 2nd at 7:30. I'd like to thank BCAM for televising our meeting tonight, Bill Needham and Jerry Comic. So with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.